Have you ever wondered where stories come from? There's a story from Africa that tells that very story. For you see, in the traditions in Africa, there is a place where stories come from. And that's the story of this story. Now, once, long ago, there was someone named Anansi. Anansi was both a man and a spider. And he thought to himself, you know, people are getting very bored. I have heard that up in the sky, the beings that live there tell this thing called stories for entertainment. And that when they come down here, they tell these stories to people and then take the stories back with them. I wonder if there's a way to get some of those stories for here. And so Anansi spun a web, a spider's web, all the way up into the sky, up to the clouds, and climbed up the web, up and up and up and up and up. And when he got up to the clouds, he found that there were, in fact, people up there in the clouds, or maybe more than people, for they seemed to be able to do their own things up in the sky where the normal people of his village couldn't even get there. And he went to what appeared to be the chief of their people and said, "Please, would you let me have stories to take back down to my people? Your people have stories and my people have none." And the chief of those people laughed and said, "Stories are not to give away, but I will sell you some. I will sell you a whole box of stories, but you must pay my price. First, you must go back down to your place of being, and second, you must capture 3 things. Third, you must bring them back to me. And in trade, I will give you a box of stories." Well, Anansi thought, I can try to do that. What are the 3 things? First, you must bring me, let's see. You must bring me alive and well some of the stinging hornets of fire. Ooh, that was kind of scary because they were called that because their stings were so painful that it felt like your body was on fire if you got stung by them. All right, what's the second thing? You must bring me the leopard whose fangs and claws are so fierce. Any one will do, but you must bring me a leopard alive and well. Okay. Well, that was even scarier because a leopard was strong and fierce enough to kill someone like Anansi if he wasn't careful. And third, you must bring me the fairy that no one sees. All right. So Anansi sadly climbed back down his web and thought, how can I capture these things and bring them alive and well up to the sky? And he thought and thought, and slowly he came up with ideas, a plan, a way to capture the hornets. And so, the next time the clouds were in the sky and it looked like it might rain, he got a great big jug and a stopper and went off to where some of the hornets lived. And he went and saw where they were and said, "Hornets, my friends, I have heard that the storm that is coming will be so great that it might destroy your nest. And so I have this strong jug for you to hide in while the storm progresses. Wouldn't that be safer? And I can keep you safe and alive and well." Well, the hornets said, "That's very nice of you. And it does look like there's rain coming. All right. And the hornets came out of their nest and flew into the jug, and Anansi put the stopper into the jug and made rumbling noises outside like there was thunder coming, and took the jug back to his house. Next, he made ropes out of his own weaving, and he took them out into the jungle where Leopard lived. And he called out, "Leopard, Leopard, would you like to play a game?" Well, Leopard, like most cats, Leopard was curious and came out. And Anansi looked like he might make a good dinner, but he was curious about the game, and dinner could wait. And Anansi said, "I have a game that I've just learned, and I would like to play it with you. I think you would like it." "What is this game?" said Leopard. And Anansi said, "It's the tying game. You see, one of us ties the other one up and tests how good a knot he can make. And then after we see how good a knot it is, the other one takes his turn and ties up the first one, and we see who ties the better knot. And then we keep doing that until one of us is the winner because, well, we have to vote honestly which knot is better." And Leopard thought and said, "That sounds like a fun game." But inside his head, he was thinking, "I don't care who wins. I think Anansi just might make a really good dinner." And so they played the game, and Anansi tied up the leopard first. Now, you may not have thought about it, but spiders are very good at tying things up. And Anansi's knot was so good that Leopard couldn't move his front paws or his hind paws. They were all tied together. And Leopard said, "This is a very good knot. Now let me go and I'll tie you up." And Anansi said, "Let's wait a little later for that." And he got out a pole and he put it through Leopard's legs and put the back end of the pole onto a mat that he had made just for this purpose and dragged Leopard back to his home. Well, Leopard was snarling and trying to get loose, but the knot was very good. "I'll be back for you in just a little while, I promise." And Anansi went out a third time. And this time he took something with him that he had made. He had gone to one of the rubber trees and taken the sap from one of the rubber trees, the very sticky sap that makes rubber if you turn it into the right things. But before you turn it into rubber, it's gooey and sticky. And he made a little doll out of that. And he tied a string to the little doll. And he put a bowl of nice, sweet food in front of the doll, and he put the doll and the bowl right by a path where he thought that fairies might go. And in a little while, there was a sound of little footsteps along the path, but Anansi could see no one. And he knew that it was the fairy that no man can see. He held onto the other end of the string, and the fairy, for that's who it was, came up and saw the bowl of sweet things and saw the doll and thought that the doll was alive and said, "Little one, may I have the sweetness that's in your bowl?" And Anansi pulled the string so that the head of the doll seemed to nod. "Thank you." And the fairy ate up the sweetness that was in the bowl. It was grain and honey and mush together, and it was tasty. "Well, thank you very much." And the baby, for it looked like a baby, said nothing. "I said thank you very much. You're supposed to say you're welcome." The baby said nothing. "Aren't you even going to nod again to let me know that you heard me?" The baby did nothing. "Well, I think I'm going to slap you so that you cry because you're just being rude. And Anansi could not see the fairy's hands, but he heard the sound of a slap. Say, you're awfully sticky. Let go of my hand, or I'm going to slap you again. Slap! Well, he heard the fairy, now angry, going, let go of my hands, let go of my hands. Anansi went out and picked up the rubber gum baby and the invisible fairy and took them back to his home. Now there, he had 3 bags. One small bag for the jug of hornets, one small bag for the fairy and the gum baby, and one very large bag for the leopard. And he tied them all to a rope and pulled them up behind him as he climbed his web again up into the clouds. And as he took them to the sky people and to the chief of the sky people, he said, I have brought you the payment that you've asked for the box of stories. And the chief of the sky people said, how did you capture these things? And Anansi told how he had captured the hornets, how he had captured the leopard, how he had captured the invisible fairy. And the chief of the sky people laughed and said, Anansi, you have just told me 3 stories. You have the ability to make stories on your own, but I have promised you stories of the sky people as well. For your bravery and for your wits, I will name the stories in this box Anansi stories, and let them serve your people as you will. Here is the box of stories. And so Anansi took the box of stories back down. And the chief of the sky people opened each of the bundles very carefully and apologized to the hornets and the leopard and to the invisible fairy and asked them not to do bad things to Anansi or his people for this little joke that had been played on them. And he gave them each rewards that they would treasure. But Anansi, he went back to his people and he told the story of how he had gotten stories, and the story of how he'd captured the hornets and the leopard and the invisible fairy. And he began to tell them all the stories from the box of stories. And so it was that the people down below learned of the Anansi stories and the value of learning stories and to tell stories. And so the story of this story became a story, a story. And that is my story for today.